What is good, everybody, man? Hope y'all are having a good Sunday morning. We usually don't live stream on Sundays, but y'all know we had to switch it up for Selection Sunday. And listen, and usually I'm the most unbiased channel on YouTube, or so I claim, even with the Auburn jerseys in the background. But today is a pro FAMU show. Everyone in here should be rooting for FAMU to get one of the final at-large bids. Only positive vibes. Only positive vibes sent FAMU's way. That's what we're hoping for today. That's the main reason for this live stream. Everything like that. Listen, like Kendrick said, no matter if you're a JSU fan, a Southern fan, if you're just an FCS fan, you have to feel good about FAMU getting in because the SWAC has never won a playoff game. So they're 0 and I believe 19 in the playoffs as in the SWAC. So if FAMU gets in and they can win a game, I mean, it would be a legendary moment for the SWAC. So that's what we're hoping for today. So, I mean, kind of the rundown of the show is we'll kind of break down going in what I think is going to happen. We have the one of the voice of the Mercer Bears stopping in, Bryce Kuhn, to talk about Mercer's at-large bid. Them, FAMU, Rhode Island, Weber State, EKU, Stephen F. Austin, UNI are all fighting over probably the last three spots in the playoffs. So, as y'all know, Mercer was one of the teams FAMU was hoping they lost. They lost by 3 points yesterday, and then Kennesaw State put on a clinic against Monmouth yesterday. I mean, they beat Monmouth probably worse than Monmouth has lost a game in probably 2-3 years. I mean, Kennesaw State put on a show, so I was impressed. Mr. Campbell, I'm good, man. I just use that free music that I don't have to pay for. You know, I got my intro music a little bit there. Jordan said he has butterflies. Please let FAMU get in. Let's see. I hope FAMU makes it to the playoffs. He said heart rate 1,000. I agree. Oh man, that is you are not lying. Let's see. You got to be at the field house. So, um, hope to get in. Slick hating the SWAC in football so much for the HBCU movement. I agree. Listen, so I did hear. I know Mr. Campbell might correct me. He probably is a little bit more connected. I know Mr. Dwayne as well. I did hear rumors that the SWAC is going to help FAMU put in a bid to host. And depending on their first round matchup, there is a possibility that the first round matchup could be at Bragg Memorial next weekend. So that would be huge if FAMU could get that game hosted at Bragg. I mean, that no doubt would sell out Bragg if they could host that first round playoff game. And it would be great because yes, the NCAA skims a little bit off the top, but that's major money coming into FAMU in terms of getting all those fans in their stadium, concessions, ticket sales, parking, everything. It's just good for the community around FAMU. So that would be amazing if FAMU got to host a game. And I really do think it. I really do think it matters who they play. I would imagine they would have a tough time outbidding Kennesaw State if they have that. Kennesaw State's got deep pockets, but like Steve said here, Southeastern Louisiana, they are definitely not. I mean, I don't think Southeastern Louisiana is going to outbid FAMU, just in my opinion, because I mean, Southeastern Louisiana really doesn't have, I guess, I would say an outrageously large budget. So I would imagine FAMU could outbid SC Louisiana, but I would have a tough time believing they can outbid a Kennesaw State because that school, I mean, that school has like FBS level like enrollment and things like that. So that would be huge. Let's see. Dwayne said yes, FAMU put in a bid. Home field advantage. That'll be history. That's definitely going to sell out. Listen, I got finals week coming up. I graduate in like a week. I might have to like skip everything. I might have to skip graduation, everything like that to go to that playoff game if that's in Bragg. That would be huge. The NCAA takes the gate sales during the playoffs. Yeah, they take the gate sales, but then I think everything else goes to the school. So anything else they sell, pretty much will go to FAMU, which it might not be a lot of money, but it's at least some money. So we'll definitely have to see about the. Let's see, a playoff game in Tally would be bananas. The crowd would be lit. My boy was king of orange and green. He used to send videos. Oh man, here's something crazy. We might be better playing Kennesaw State and ATL Metro. We would take their stadium over. Listen, that's what happened when they played. I believe it was North Carolina A&T I believe it was a record crowd for Kennesaw, if I'm not mistaken. North Carolina A&T took over the stadium, and I would imagine, like you said, Mr. Campbell, FAMU would bring no less than. I mean, they would probably sell out the stadium. I mean, they would have to probably limit FAMU tickets if that was in ATL. I know Mr. Campbell, you would be there. I know there's Mr. Dwayne would be there. It would be crazy, man. I appreciate that, Kendrick, man. Definitely appreciate that, AO. Let's see, NCAA takes everything, 75% of everything. Let's see, Kennesaw State would be crazy. I agree, man. Yeah, we're just starting, man. We're just starting. So, as y'all know, the selection show streams on ESPNU today at 11:30. So we got about 4 minutes till it kicks off, but they'll have all their intro talks and make you wait a million years to see where everyone is. So we're gonna break it down all on here. So for me, right now, before we get Bryce Kuhn on for a little bit to talk about Monmouth, I would say right now FAMU is probably 2 or 3 spots into the good. I have them, they don't rank all the seeds 1 through 24, but if you did, I would have probably around 20 or 23 right now in terms of where I would have them in my bracket. I think FAMU, I think and I think Stephen F. Austin probably have the best shots to at least get into the playoffs. So I think those 3 teams are probably going to be to the good, and then I think Rhode Island and Mercer are going to be probably on the outside looking in. And we're going to talk to Bryce Kuhn about Mercer. They lost by 3 to ETSU yesterday in a very competitive game, so they're probably going to have a good argument, but it's going to be hard to get in. But FAMU, man, if you're a FAMU fan, every single thing of what you needed to happen happened. So if you're a FAMU fan, I think you're going to feel real good today about your chances of getting in. Now, let's see who's going to seed Eastern Washington or Montana State. Man, listen, Steve. In my opinion, I would say Eastern Washington should be the seed. I just think I really think when you look at their losses, they really did. The only bad loss they have was Weber, and that was by 1 point. So for me, I think Eastern Washington, especially after Montana State got smacked by Montana, I would put Eastern Washington in the seeding, but I just don't know if you can put Montana State after the way they got beat yesterday by Montana. I think Montana's locked the seat up. North Dakota State locked the seat up. Sam Houston, of course, locked the seat up, and James Madison locked the seat up. But those last 3 or 4 spots would be hard. And Steve, there's also a possibility that both Eastern Washington and Montana State both get a seed. Kind of depending on how they look at Sac State, maybe how they look at Missouri State. I think those 2 teams possibly could both be seeded. But if I had to pick one, Steve, I would probably pick Eastern Washington. Man, so right now I'm actually finishing up school at Kansas State right now, but when I go back to Alabama, man, I'm from Mobile, so the deep south of Alabama, like right there on the coast. So it'll be Mobile, Alabama, which means if you're coming to the HBCU Combine or the Senior Bowl, I will be there covering it. We got media credentials. We've covered that for the past 2-3 years, so we'll definitely be in Mobile for that. If they get in, what day would they play? They would play, I believe it's November 27th. So this upcoming Saturday would be the day of the game. So they'd either play, I would say the 2 teams that they would have to play is I'm blanking, my bad. It's Kennesaw State or Southeastern Louisiana, and then maybe like an ETSU or a UT Martin, like one of those Tennessee teams. It really depends on. So the Kedrick, the way it works is so let's say Kennesaw is the closest to FAMU, but if Kennesaw has another opponent within like 400 miles of them, then they'll be seated. They'll be seated with them, and then FAMU will have to go to the next closest. So it kind of depends. But if I had to put my money on it today, it's going to be Kennesaw versus FAMU in the first round of the playoffs this weekend. And the one bracket I saw, I know, I know, Mr. Campbell probably won't like this, but the one bracket I saw is the winner of Kennesaw FAMU might have to go play either James Madison or North Dakota State. That would be, listen, that's going to be a tough matchup either way. I would probably give FAMU a better chance of beating. Man, that's so tough. I'd say a better chance of beating a James Madison over a North Dakota State. That's a long way to travel in the second round, but if they can get a James Madison, that would be huge for FAMU in terms of getting into the second round. Because I really think right now that FAMU's defense would give James Madison a lot of problems. Their their offense is just has been atrocious in terms of what's happening. Let's see, FAMU, Stephen F. Austin, and UNI last three spots. This is so sad for Jackson State. Your number two teams get better rewarded for you. Listen, I agree. I 100% agree. The man. I mean, it is. It's not great. It's not great at all. Um, Here, let me see if I can pull this up. I won't talk Dottie. I'm not trying to get any copyright strikes on the channel, man, but I wanted to be here with y'all so we can break it all down in terms of what's happening. Let's see. I'll get to this last comment. Let's see. Northern Iowa get the last spot. I agree. Let's see. Davidson versus Kennesaw. That would be. He said, "You already know, FAMU playing in North Dakota." Listen, that's been Mr. Campbell's. That's been Mr. Campbell's whole thing here is that FAMU's always got to get always got to get sent to North Dakota. Let's see. Jake Paulson said, "Is you and I going to make it?" Listen, I have you and I making it. I have them getting the last spot, Jake. I know a lot of people are torn on them making it, but for me, I would have you and I making it just based on the ranked wins they have. I mean, to get through the Missouri Valley the way they did, I personally think that UNI is definitely going to make a run in there. Let's see. I think it'd be better for FAMU. It's a billion of us in Metro. Let's see. Kennesaw would run FAMU into the ground. Ah, man, that would be tough, man. Listen, Justin. I think it'd be a solid matchup. I don't think it'd be a blowout, but I do think. Listen, Kennesaw's option offense, man, is no joke. That quarterback yesterday. I don't know how many of you guys watched the Kennesaw State Monmouth game, but that quarterback ran for like 120 yards and 4 touchdowns. It was crazy. So let's see. The first seed is Sam Houston, guys. Sam Houston got the number one seed. Um, so Sam Houston, not a surprise. The defending national champions are going to get the number one seed. That's not a surprise at all. North Dakota State, number two seed, also not a surprise at all. But comment, let's see, JMU's number three. Yep. He said they're gonna send them to the North Pole. Listen, Q, at least it's a dome. At least it's a dome. That's the only good thing is you won't have to play out in the cold. It'll just be a dome situation. So it won't be as bad. I promise. It won't be as bad as you think. Let me see if I can get this pulled up. I'm gonna see if I can stream it at least a little bit for you guys, so we definitely can see whether FAMU makes it. Sacramento State's the 4 seed, guys. Also, that's a little surprising, man. I didn't think Sac State would get the 4 seed. I'm gonna be 100 with y'all. I did not see them getting the 4 seed in this one. Yeah, and I'm pulling up the stream now. Let me get the stream ready for y'all. No, so dreams keep going. JSU will not be in it. It JSU is not going to be in it. Listen, if let's see if I can stream. Hang on. Let me know if y'all can hear it and if it's clear and everything like that. Let's see. Hang on. Listen, so the sound is not working on my end either. Well, hang on. So I'm just gonna pull it up and we address y'all's questions and things like that. So because I cannot, the audio is coming through my end, but I think it's hooked up to my headphones. Um, yeah, so just you so I'll stream it here and then I'll answer y'all's questions while it's going. That way we can talk who who gets in. Let's see. Kedrick said, "Did you ever imagine you'd be covering HBCU so heavily?" So I'm gonna be honest, Kedrick. So like when I first started covering Dion, started covering just Jackson State, then I kind of like morphed over to like the SWAC championships and everything like that. Um, and I never thought it'd be big. Listen, when I first started covering, I didn't think anyone would ever listen, to be honest with you, Kendrick. And then it got way bigger than I thought. So it was huge. Let's see, does Missouri State get a top 8 seed? Man, Tyler, I think personally, um, I okay, so I think Missouri State's going to be one spot out. I just don't see how you give Missouri State a seed over some of the big sky teams that like a Eastern Washington, like a Montana State, potentially like a Montana. I just don't think you could. I personally just don't think you can give them a top 8 seed. I mean, if they do get it, they'll probably be number 8, if anything. But I personally, I don't see them getting a top 8. I just couldn't see them getting a top 8 seed, man. Let's see. Yeah, they didn't. They just announced ETSU getting a top 8 seed, though, is crazy. I did not think ETSU would get a top 8 seed at all. That actually really surprised me. I did not think ETSU would get one. Neither did I think Villanova. So that means so wow, they did. That's crazy. Listen, so for me, I'm shocked that Eastern Washington didn't get a top 8 seed. Eastern Washington for me, I would be absolutely shocked that they did. I'm just mind blown that they didn't get one. Um, let's see. I'm just trying to still figure out why Villanova's football team is in the FCS and every other sport is actually D1. Yeah, I'm not sure. So listen, I can't play the commercials, so I'm gonna minimize it during the commercials because that's how you really get in trouble. Let's see. Urban said, "FAMU fan here, so my team won't get fined by SWAC fans." Blue, what's up? What's up, Urban man? I appreciate it. Let's see. Once you're in the tournament, you have a fractional chance of winning it. Hypothetically, FAMU has a chance to become national champions, and Jackson State has a damn Celebration Bowl cup. Listen, I agree, the man. Let's see, Sean. FAMU has not been announced yet. They just did the top 8 seeds. Now they're probably going to go through the rest of the bracket after this commercial. Where do you see South Dakota State landing? Since they already played North Dakota State, they won't be a seed, but they'll make it, man. They're probably going to be in one of the big sky regions. So what they'll probably do with South Dakota State is that they'll probably put them in like a Montana bracket because they can't play North Dakota State again because you're not supposed to replay replay a same team. They don't want rematches in the playoffs. They want new opponents and they want opponents that haven't played each other. So wherever North Dakota State is, they'll be in one of the other regions of the bracket. That way they won't have to play again. Let's see. Yeah, FAMU's probably in the lower right-hand bracket. It would be perfect if they were in the ETSU part of the bracket, because if you win your first-round matchup, then you only have to go to Tennessee and East Tennessee at that. So I think that would be the best-case scenario for FAMU. Man, Mr. Campbell, I think a lot of people who don't watch a lot of FCS, they don't know Eric Berrier at Eastern Washington is a problem. Him and Cole Kelly are the two best quarterbacks and players at the FCS level, and it's not even. I don't even think you can debate that at this point. Let's see. Let me go up here. Catch back up. Yeah, the ETSU bracket would be the best case scenario. That I'll definitely agree with you on that one. Let's see. T said, "I'm here to support FAMU. I'm J State and I love, but I want to see the SWAC represented in the FCS Bowl." I'll agree there. Yeah, UC Davis should. I believe UC Davis is one of the ones that I mentioned on the last show that pretty much clinched. I believe UC Davis will be in there, Beans. Yeah, Southeastern Louisiana. Yeah, Southeastern Louisiana, Cole Kelly too. Listen, they're both monsters. That's the next big thing I do want to see, guys. I want to see who wins the Walter Payton Award, because last year Eric Berrier was 4 votes away from winning it, won the FCS Player of the Year award by the NCAA, but then lost to Walter Payton. So I think they need to they need to get it. They need to find it. Let's see. Tennessee State is rolling with FAMU. That's right, man. Hey, listen. If it don't matter what team you root for in the SWAC, in the MEAC, you should want FAMU to get this one. Let's see. We'll pull it back up as they're probably about to announce the next. Let's see. I agree. Yeah. Jackson State, man. Coach Green, man. Listen, Akil is great, but for me, man, Eric Berrier and Cole Kelly are on a whole nother level than Akil Glass, man. I hate to say it, they play with tougher competition, and I mean the numbers that they're putting up. I mean, Eric Berrier threw for 600 yards and 7 touchdowns in 3 quarters this year in one of the games, and he had more passing yards than anybody else in college football pretty much this season. So I would say, yeah, it's a different level. All right, so Stephen F. Austin gets in. So that's one of the teams that was competing with FAMU for an at-large bid. So that's interesting that Stephen F. Austin got in. I told y'all that Incarnate Word is in. That's going to be, listen, that's a solid matchup. Incarnate Word versus Stephen F. Austin. Incarnate Word, yes, Steve. The quarterback there for Incarnate Word is the truth. He that's the quarterback that beat what's it called, Prairie View 41-9 this year, guys. And Prairie View has been one of the best teams in the SWAC this year, and I mean Incarnate Word got after him, so that's going to be a really interesting matchup. Mr. Listen, that's because they didn't know Mr. Campbell. They didn't know about Incarnate Word. They saw the name and they didn't like it. Yeah, Cameron Ward. He's probably going to be one of the top Walter Payton candidates next year, since Kelly and Berrier both left. So UT Martin versus Missouri State. Hey, that's also a good matchup. I'm interested to see who wins that one. I would love to see a Missouri State Montana State matchup. I think that would be a crazy matchup in the second round. So I'm hoping Missouri State can come out alive in that one. That'd be a great game. Coach Green, I think it was Idaho, if I'm not mistaken. It was either like Idaho or Idaho State. So I'll have to look it up. But yeah, I believe it was Idaho, like week 6 or 7. He did that in like 3 quarters. It was crazy. Seriously, SWAC fans, we know we got to change the conference, because JSU, FAMU, PV all goes this year. It shows that we need to change SWAC football. I agree. So Sacred Heart is in. Sacred Heart was an automatic qualifier. They won their conference to NEC, so they were going to be in regardless. I'm interested to see who they match them up with, though. listen, if FAMU can get matched up with Sacred Heart, that'd be a huge one. But no, it's Holy Cross. So Holy Cross versus Sacred Heart, and the winner goes on to play Villanova. Listen, I have a tough time finding the winner of that matchup going much further. I think because to ultimately have to play Sac State in the third round would be a tough one. So I'd be interested to see that. Let's see. Mr. Dwayne said, "Thanks for showing me the right polls to watch and guiding us through." Man, I appreciate it, Mr. Dwayne. Oh, hang on. I think it's buffering. My bad. Hang on. Let me refresh it. All right, I am working on that, guys, real quick. But some really good matchups thus far. I got it pulled up on my phone too. All right, we are back. Let me know if y'all can still hear me. It's my bad about that. We've had terrible weather up here in Kansas, guys. That's what happens when you live in the Midwest. Appreciate that, Mr. Campbell. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna try to get this back up for you guys. My bad. All right. No word on FAMU yet, but they're probably going to be in that bottom right part of the bracket. So just be patient with FAMU. They are coming, I'm assuming. Michael, I am working on pulling it back up. We were watching it, and then my Wi-Fi is just crashing. All right, so we got it back up. They're talking to Sam Houston's coach, I believe, still. So we are back in business, guys. My bad again. Royce, they haven't finished listen, they haven't finished announcing the bracket. We're only about halfway through the bracket. So uh just hang tight, hang tight. You know they're gonna make us wait. You already know, Mr. Campbell. Let's see, like, comment, man. I appreciate it, Sonic Boom. Let's talk about Sam Houston. Listen, Sam Houston, Jacksonville State. I mean, they are all going to the FBS. Listen, I think it's a bad. Listen, I don't think it's a bad move for Sam Houston. They'll be fine. I think for me, Jacksonville State's going to have some problems. I mean, you look at what happened this year. Uh, I just, I don't know. I just don't know how they're going to compete, man. I mean, they got beat up this year. They fired their head coach is gone. I just don't think Jacksonville State's going to have a great time next year. So for me, I think Sam Houston's going to be okay. James Madison should be all right. But I'm interested to see any of the Midwest teams going. So like the North Dakota States and all that. Look at Lee Corso is that with the FAMU gear on, man. That's crazy. That's a real throwback. 2008. That's crazy. Let's see. Roby wants the Jackson State's not winning the Celebration Bowl. South Carolina State is MEAC. Listen, if South Carolina State beats Jackson State, I'll be shocked, Roby. I will be shocked, Robbie. I will be mind blown. I just can't see it. Sam Houston got over the hump due to one player. Honestly, they just need to recruit better. I agree, man. I agree. Listen, it's big time. Because it's Ezra at wide receiver is a problem, man. A whole problem. We got Florida A&M, man, in the James Madison bracket, which means they will not have to go to North Dakota, and they will be they got to the playoffs. They will face James Madison in the second round if they win. Let's see who they got matched up with. I'm hoping it's Kennesaw. That would be amazing if they got matched up with Kennesaw, and then a Kennesaw versus FAMU, then a James Madison. Oh man, FAMU is pumped up. That is huge. That is huge. Yeah, they're not hosted, but listen, man. Hey, you're in the playoffs, and it's only to Louisiana, southeastern Louisiana. Guys, I am telling you guys, this is the best case scenario. This is the best case scenario for FAMU. I mean, to not have to be in a bracket where you got to go to Montana or North Dakota is giant. I mean, and also southeastern Louisiana, the defense is not great. So I really think FAMU can put up points. Now, listen, the matchup to watch, guys. I can't wait to cover this game later this week. Cole Kelly versus that FAMU defense is going to be epic, man. Cole Kelly, the former Walter Payton Award winner, and I mean against Marquise Bell, Antoine Collier, and that defense is going to be crazy. That is going to be giant for FAMU, and I mean if they win, talk about huge. Also, we got Eastern Washington versus Northern Iowa with a Montana in the second round. Yeah, SLU Stadium only seats 8,000, and FAMU might bring 6,000 of the 2,000. Man, I mean, they're going to pack that house, man. They're going to pack it out, and I cannot wait. Best bracket by far, no Kennesaw option. I agree. NIU got in. Hey, I told you, Crazy Criminal. I told you they were going to get in. Those wins are too much. I mean, they were beating some legit teams. Oh man, Urban's already putting Southeastern Louisiana on notice, man. It'll be a huge one. Let's see. Yeah, Sonic Boom. So they already do the bids, and each team doesn't know the other team's bids, but I believe the bids are already in, and FAMU won't be hosting. They'll have to travel to Southeastern Louisiana, but that's not a bad travel spot. Listen, I mean, the playoffs have a lot of issues, but at least the number one thing is FAMU doesn't have to go play North Dakota now. That's a big thing. So I think that's the number one thing for FAMU that you should look forward to. And I think that's two favorable matchups. I mean, if FAMU plays their best football, they absolutely have a chance to win both of those games. Now, listen, if they get Montana or Eastern Washington in the quarterfinals, that's going to be a really tough matchup. But I think they can make some noise. Listen, if you get a win against Southeastern Louisiana and then you at least play James Madison close, even if you didn't win, I think I count that as an A season for FAMU. And I think you can even say getting into the playoffs is huge. And then the last matchup, guys, we got Davidson, Kennesaw State versus South Dakota, and then Southern Illinois being Sonic Boom. I don't believe they released the bids. So the way it works is the selection. So that's the end of that. I'll turn this off and then we can kind of break down everything else that happened. Let me stop sharing this. But so the way it works, Sonic Boom, is you submit your bid and they're in a sealed envelope, and the committee cannot look at the bids until after the brackets are made. And so what they'll do, Sonic Boom, is once the brackets are made, the committee will then open those sealed envelopes, and then that will determine who's that game. So they never compare bids or anything like that. All they'll do is look at it and then say, okay, well, this team outbid this team. So it kind of depends by the luck of the draw, whether you host or not. Let's see. Let me go back up here to some of these comments. He said enough about the MEAC traders. Yes, Papa Jude, Southeastern Louisiana got in. They will be playing FAMU in the first round. On I believe it's on Saturday night. I didn't see the date of the game. That was crazy. Just think this was a 2 SWAC tournament bids. That second round matchup against James Madison is going to be tough. JMU is legit. I agree. That's a weird bracket with NDSU. They are all in the same conference. Yeah, that was weird, crazy criminal. I did notice that. Let's see, bro. Would you want to play in a national tournament or Celebration Bowl? I'm picking national tournament. Y'all know how I feel about that. But that's not for me. Yeah, Saturday, 7 p.m. Guys, listen, FAMU versus Southeastern Louisiana. Saturday, 7 p.m. Listen, I will be doing a preview of that game for sure on this channel. And I will definitely be doing, I'll be covering all the FCS playoffs on this channel, but that's going to be a giant matchup. Do you think Missouri State should have got in? Yeah, definitely, Aaron. I definitely thought they were at least going to get in because, I mean, there were some people saying that they could possibly be seeded. So I definitely thought they definitely should have got in. Let's see. That's how it's rigged. That's how NDSU always makes it when they're familiar with the teams. I agree. They want FCS playoffs. To be honest, the fans want that other bowl. Listen, listen, Sean. It's a slow process, man. It'll be okay. Eventually, I think eventually the SWAC's going to try to get their automatic bid back, especially if FAMU makes a run this year. If FAMU somehow can upset James Madison in the second round and get to the quarterfinals, I would have a tough time imagining that the rest of the SWAC wouldn't try to fight for an automatic bid back. I would be very surprised. It's finished. Yeah, Sam Houston is going to an FBS conference in 2 years. I believe next year is their last year at the FCS level. So let's see. Dim Boy said this is the best case scenario for the SWAC. The FAMU winning round 1 or round 2 will keep fans talking about football all season. Miami will be lit and there'll be eyes on the SWAC all year. Let's see. We need to get more involved in FCS football news, issues, politics, so we can understand how to position ourselves. I agree, Sonic Boom. You have to get more involved, especially if this is the route the SWAC wants to take moving forward. You have to get more involved in terms of the FCS. I would say just the environment, the landscape, and everything like that. We'll get our automatic bid back, then the rest will follow. I agree. Phil Ross, FAMU, put the ball in Bishop's hands. Yes, Bishop Bonnet should have all the carries in the world. Listen, Southeastern Louisiana allows a lot of points. Listen, their defense is not outstanding, and I really think FAMU could put up some real points on Southeastern Louisiana. Now, the one key is they have not seen a quarterback like Cole Kelly. Listen, I know personally everyone in here loves Shador Sanders and Akil Glass. Cole Kelly is on a different level. That is a senior quarterback who won the Walter Payton Award, 6'7" in arm strength for days. So for me, I'm telling you, do not sleep on Cole Kelly in Southeastern Louisiana. This is this defense's biggest test of the season, and this is going to be giant for FAMU if they can win this game. Let's see. When do they open the envelopes blue? So Q, so they don't open the envelopes publicly. The committee, what happens is they'll have all the envelopes in the room with them when they're making their decisions. And once the bracket is finalized, they'll pair up the envelopes from the two teams in the first round, open them in the room, and whatever team listed their highest bid will get to host that first round game. I don't believe they make it public though, so that's just committee knowledge. Um, it's sad to see Bobby Petrino at Missouri State. He is on a hot Arkansas and Louisville, and then things went south for him, unfortunately. I agree, Crazy. I mean, he could be a Power 5 coach right now and arguably one of the best in the country. And he's stuck at Missouri State just because of poor decision making. I'm going to reach out to my sources at Southeastern Louisiana and FAMU to see if anyone knows the bids. Let me know, Sonic Boom. I'd be interested to see that. They want North Dakota State to lose so bad. That's so sad. Listen, man, when you win every national title for like the past like 10 years, I think you're going to have a lot of haters, Maxwell. But listen, North Dakota State's always a tough out in the playoffs. They always seem to turn it on. So I don't think anyone can sleep on North Dakota State right now. That JSU FAMU game is going to be crazy next year. The SWAC knows they went after the money. It's not like they're oblivious to the FCS playoffs. That's true. ROD will make sure to get us more involved. I know at Jackson State we have some things to check off. If you look at Coach Prom incentives, he already checks off a lot. SWAC fans will be engaged from the time they start seeing the recruiting class in the portal. Kelly is the real deal, almost 5,000 yards and 50-plus touchdowns, guys. That's what I'm saying. I mean, Kelly is a problem. Listen, Sonic Boom, I'm taking Kelly over Pass like every day and twice. I mean, Pass has major flaws. I mean, I'm taking Kelly over any quarterback in the SWAC right this second. I mean, Shador has an opportunity moving forward to pass him, but right now you got to take Kelly over all of them because, I mean, that's a senior guy who's done it for 4 years at like the highest level in FCS. I looked at the future schedule, and a lot of the Missouri Valley teams have their non-conference schedules done for the next 5 years. Yeah, I mean, that's something the SWAC's got to do better at. You have to get those non-conference schedules done and for a quickness. I mean, because these other schools aren't going to wait around for you to have openings. They're going to go ahead and schedule. So if you're a Jackson State, a FAMU, you have to make these decisions ASAP if you want to make some real change in the next coming years. McKay just has to make good decisions. If he does, they'll win. If they don't, they lose. He said, Rashawn McKay. I need Scotty in here to be screaming McKay, man. Football is a business. If it don't make money, it don't make sense. I agree. I take Kelly over any SWAC quarterback. I agree. I wouldn't say that. I feel like he moves better than Glass, but other than that, I'm not impressed. We'll definitely see, Leon. This is and on the flip side, this will probably be Kelly's toughest test of the year. I don't think I personally don't think right now that he's seen the defense like he's going to see this upcoming weekend. So I can't wait to break this game down. I'm already like foaming at the mouth, ready to look at the film of these two teams. McKay's been making smart decisions. The marching 100 will be 200 deep, and the fans on God. The SWAC conference, you would have to reschedule your beloved Classic up. How does our pass rush compare with Southeastern Louisiana's offensive line? Listen, I think they match up really well. I do think FAMU is going to be able to get pressure on Kelly. Now, the thing is even though Kelly is, he's not the fastest quarterback, he is mobile. But can FAMU stay disciplined in their rush lanes and get Kelly down? And also, guys, Kelly's 6'7", like 250, 260. And so he's bigger than Isaiah Land is at defensive end. And so if you don't wrap him up and get bodies on him, he is going to shake off first and second comers. That's going to be the number one thing I'm interested to see is FAMU does have I would say a fairly undersized defensive line. How do they handle a quarterback of that stature in the pocket that can move? I mean, he has multiple, he's one of their leading, I believe he leads the team in rushing touchdowns too. So can they get him to the ground? I don't think the problem is getting pressure on him. The question is, can they get him to the ground because he's so physically overwhelming for FAMU? For someone who doesn't know when the playoffs start, they start this weekend, Imperial. So they start Friday and Saturday. FAMU's game will be on Saturday night at 7:00. They say it's rigged because NDSU plays teams they already know. It's just wrong. In the past 10 years, the Valley had a team of the championship game, 16 ranks. Yeah, I wouldn't say technically rig it because the Missouri Valley gets like 5-6 teams in, so it's really hard for them not to have to play each other. That's going to be huge. Scotty, they play Southeastern Louisiana. It's the same kid who that won the Walter Payton last year. I mean, he is huge. I mean, he's bigger than Ben Roethlisberger. He is a giant. Coach Simmons, they're playing at Southeastern Louisiana. So they'll be on the road in Louisiana, which isn't that bad at all. And I agree. I know I saw this comment. Hang on, where is it? Yeah, I was also hoping it was Kennesaw. Trust me, I definitely wish it was Kennesaw as well. That would be huge. Let's see. Winning the SWAC championship in the Celebration Bowl is a Port-au-Prince checkoff. Yeah, they had to do it year one. You can't just dip out of the SWAC and not go play in the championship game. So I don't blame Jackson State at all. So what does that say about the defenses he's playing against? I watched the Nicholls State game and it was like a 7-on-7 tournament. Yeah, I agree, Leon. That's what I was saying. I mean, this is going to be a giant test for Southeastern Louisiana on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think they've seen a Marquise Bell and Antoine Collier and Isaiah Land in the Southland this year. I guess the best team they've probably seen this year was Incarnate Word. And I mean, that was a great game that they played against them. But for me, I personally think that this game is going to be a giant test for both teams because it's a stylistic matchup you want to see. Everyone wants to see the high flying offense go up against the stout defense that is leading the FCS. So it's arguably a top 2 quarterback in the FCS going up against a top 5 defense in the FCS. Sign me up for that every day. If you're just a football fan and aren't even invested in these two teams, it is huge to see this game. Eastern Washington have talked about dropping to D3 because they lose 600,000 every year. Yeah, I mean, I know because a lot of people were wondering if EWU was going to go D1 or go, up to the FBS level, and they just don't have the funds for that. Let's see. FAMU is the best HBCU because they made the tournament. There's no money in the tournament. How do you get anyone to change? Listen, I mean, Carlton, I've been saying it. The playoffs have made a lot of improvements, but for me, they still have to make more. You have to make it more profitable, and I think you do that by shrinking the tournament just a little bit and making it more, I guess, streamlined. Because for me, and I've said this, I don't want to get all into this over again. I've said it on Scotty's show, I've said it on this show, and I don't want to waste 40 minutes talking about it, but F college football has to pull away from the NCAA. The NCAA is the one thing, it's like a cancer inside college football, riding it from the inside. They have to pull away from the NCAA. If they don't, I really question, the longevity of college football moving into the future with some of the things coming down the line. So I won't get too far into that. You can go check out old episodes about my thoughts on a commissioner and things like that. But I agree, there's still a lot to change and to improve in the playoff system. There's a whole bunch of people that don't follow SWAC football that said there was a 0% chance of SWAC teams being ranked or going to the playoffs. Maybe the SWAC did something right. Listen, anybody who said down the line that there was a 0% chance did not know what they're talking about. There was always a chance. And then, like I said to start the show, FAMU, every single team that had to lose lost. And FAMU had the perfect situation going into the playoffs. And like I tweeted last night when Coach Simmons tagged me, I mean, there was like a 99.9%. I was like 99.9% sure they were going to slide into the playoffs because everyone they needed to lost last night. Let's see. I'm going back to Louisiana for the 3rd time this year. That part, JSU actually helped FAMU's bid by playing well. Why did you want Kennesaw? Listen, I wanted Kennesaw in because for me, to see that option attack going up against this defense for me would also be a stylistic matchup I want to see. Kennesaw's defense is also top 20 in the FCS. So it'd be 2 great defenses against a unique triple option attack. And it would be in Atlanta. They have a little bit bigger stadium, I believe, than Southeastern Louisiana. And I just think in Atlanta, a Kennesaw versus FAMU matchup would be an epic matchup to watch in the first round. So I just thought that Kennesaw was the better team than Southeastern Louisiana. And I would really like to see FAMU go up against that team in Atlanta. SWAC championship is obligated to the Celebration Bowl. If FAMU does well, the SWAC might rethink some things. I agree. How is Southeastern Louisiana's defense? Man, I mentioned it. Their defense isn't great. They're going to give up a lot of yards, give up a lot of points. They really try to play the bend but don't break defense. So for me, I think FAMU could absolutely score 30 on this team with ease. Now the question is, how can they hold down their offense? Because this offense likes to spread you out and throw the ball around the yard, and Cole Kelly has an arm on him. So for me, it's going to come down to really and truly which defense can make a stop. And I mean, right now, looking at it before I do all my research, I would say FAMU has the advantage on defense significantly. I'm just not big on defense, not numbers in college football lacking defense. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. To raise the SWAC profile, there should be a SWAC versus Southland Challenge. I agree. Um, Listen, I think you could do the Southland. I think you could do the SoCon. I think you could do the CAA. I think you could probably do the ASUN, maybe the WAC. There's so many conferences in the southeastern part of the United States that you could do a challenge against and get some out of conference games. I wouldn't pick the Southland though right now, just because they don't have enough teams to do a full challenge. I think the ASUN would be more than likely the one you want to go to. Maybe the SoCon. I think an ETSU versus a Jackson State, or or even a UT Martin maybe could play a FAMU. I think that would be more likely. But the Southland would work it. I mean, at first, in my opinion. Just for anyone wondering, SWAC can't make schedules early. They have to worry about scheduling D2 HBCUs when they are in financial need. Same as scheduling their own money games. Appreciate his script, man. I appreciate it. Let's see. He says, send me thick 36 for the game this weekend, man. Played out perfectly. They got the money and they got a good playoff team. I agree. You can almost make both games, the Bayou Classic and the playoff game. It's only an hour away from New Orleans. I forgot about that. That's going to be crazy. You're going to have Southern versus Grambling on Saturday and this playoff game. I'm interested to see how that works. Let's see. RJ said, good luck, FAMU. Hold it down for the SWAC. Wish my Tigers could have went, but we'll take the SWAC championship this season. FAMU, I got y'all upset, but James Madison is going to blow y'all out. Fair enough. Let's see. Southeast has a high-powered offense. I agree. FAMU needed this bid. They needed the win. It will help them compete with prom and recruiting. I agree, man. Listen, FAMU and Jackson. Listen, if you're in the SWAC, if you're one of the teams outside of JSU and FAMU, you got to be worried. If you're at Alabama A&M losing a kill, if you're Alabama State, no head coach, Grambling, no head coach, Southern still ain't got a quarterback, you got to be like, damn, man, what did we do here? How do we compete with the best of the best in the SWAC if they're making playoffs and the Jackson State's winning the SWAC championship? And it could go back and forth where FAMU wins the SWAC next year, Jackson State's a one-loss team, and they're in the playoffs. How in the world do you compete with that if you're, a Mississippi Valley State or a Bethune or someone like that? If you're anyone else in the SWAC, man, you got to be concerned right now. You're like, man, I want them to win, but if FAMU starts winning playoff games and Jackson State has Dion, who's landing recruits in the SWAC compared to those two teams? I don't think you can say anybody. I appreciate it, Urban, man. Definitely like and subscribe. Aren't two conferences joined temporarily next year? Yeah, it was the ASUN and the WAC, Sonic Boom. The WAC and the ASUN combined. That way they had enough to get into the playoffs, because you have to have so many teams to make the playoffs in the first place. And without them combined, they wouldn't have made the playoffs. Teams know about SWAC people at like HBCU football and underground rap artists. The SWAC had a decent strength this year. Yeah, take the top three from each division, and they're decent. Let's see. Shout out to FAMU. Let's see. Southern will recover, maybe Grambling. I think Alcorn is the one who's about to start burning out. Oh man, listen. Listen. I understand that some of these teams might be all right. It really depends on who they hire, though. If you're Southern, if you're Alabama State or Grambling, you can't mess up this hire. I mean, the pressure's on. You have to nail this hire. If you don't hit this hire on the head, then you're going to be screwed, because a bad coaching hire nowadays will set you back 3-4 seasons. And I don't think the SWAC has 3-4 seasons to be set behind Dion even further than they already are. And God forbid if FAMU, takes off and they start winning playoff games, then how far are you going to be behind them? I mean, that East Division is going to be a top 2 monster. And if you're the SWAC, you're looking at, say, you're looking at FAMU like, man, like, should we have put them in the other division? Like, we got our 2 best teams in the same division beating up on each other every year. And now the SWAC championship every year is just a mute point. So I think the SWAC has a lot of decisions to be made moving forward. And, like I said, you could keep the Celebration Bowl. I have no problem with that. But why don't we send, like this year, why don't we send Alcorn to the Celebration Bowl, or Prairie View, whoever's in the other SWAC champ, whoever's the other side of the division, and why don't Jackson State and FAMU both could have made the playoffs this year, guys? How amazing would that have been to watch Jackson State and FAMU both in the playoffs this year, potentially, being both having a chance to win the national championship? For me, I just that's how I feel about it. But I mean, I know some people are gonna disagree. Well, they have a QB recruit, and then they have they have Quincy Casey. They have a 4-star quarterback sitting behind them. But for me, you're going to need more than that. You're going to need O-line. You're going to need defense, and I think A&M has a lot of holes. The money is future money, publicity, bigger TV deals, recruiting. I agree. He said, big facts. What are they gonna do? Oh man, FAMU, I got 100 on y'all. I'm bringing thick 67 for the Southeastern quarterback, man. Yeah, y'all are gonna need a big thick for Mr. 6'7", man. He's a monster. If I'm FAMU's AD, I'm sending out the memo today. Scheduling now on will be geared. Tell him, Lawrence. If I'm FAMU, I am calling everyone I know, and I'm saying, Kennesaw, you're playing me next year. Southeastern Louisiana, we're playing again next year. No more Fort Valleys. No more Fort Valleys. So, no, none at all. You have to schedule for at-large bids. That's going to be your goal moving forward. Because if I'm a FAMU fan, I am perfectly fine losing to Jackson State. That's fine. And then I go to the playoffs and have a chance to the Natty. That's a great consolation prize to lose to Jackson State and then win the rest of your games. Because right now, FAMU, in my opinion, was the second best team in the SWAC this year. So it kind of depends on what FAMU wants moving forward. But for me, going to the playoffs is a perfect consolation prize if I can't win my conference. Let's see. Let me get to some of these other ones. A good SU team is good for the SWAC. The SWAC needs a good SU and Alcorn. I agree. 1,000%. Hang on. It's not like them teams just blew everybody out. Which team, Surf? Oh, are you talking about FAMU and Jackson State? I'm not saying they blew everyone out, but I mean, this was year one for FAMU in the SWAC, and they lost one game, and this was year really 1.5 for Dion in the SWAC, and no one even beat him. So for me, that's the main problem. Let's see. Dion is a monster recruiter. If he can just coach any FBS team, he get a top 10 recruiting class. I'm gonna agree with you on that. Orange Boston Classic will be crazy next year. You got to speak on Jeff Colin's disrespect. What was the disrespect? She hate thee. Comment below what was the disrespect, because I didn't have sound, so I wasn't sure. Let's see. Bad for SWAC business. They want to showcase their best. As Prom says, it must be the money. I agree. Let's see. Hang on. I saw my guy in here. Hang on. Javin, what's up, man? Listen, Sacred Heart. Listen, my guy Javin Adderley. Listen, this was cut day. Put me on to Javin. Listen, he was on the show this all season. Javin, we're going to have to get you back on after the playoffs, man. Break down Sacred Heart season, man. So hit me up on Instagram. We'll get you back on the show for part 2, man. Congratulations on y'all's playoff bids. And, man, y'all going to make some noise, man. Let's see. I'm going to be honest. If Travis Hunter decommitted to Florida State to go to JSU, SWAC is in trouble. Oh, yeah. I forgot about – hang on. What about Travis Hunter? Listen. He's been saying he was at Jackson State. He's taken visits all, over weeks. But for me, if he goes to Jackson State, that would be giant. I mean, that's the number 1 recruit in the country. Number 1 recruit in the country potentially going to Jackson State. That would be legendary. Oh, did Dan Mullen get fired? He did. Listen, guys. Okay, we're on the live stream right now. I'll focus on that. Listen, Dan Mullen episode coming tonight. So turn on your post notifications. We'll have a Dan Mullen episode coming tonight. Do not worry about that. All the HBCUs do it with smaller HBCUs. The last time the SWAC had two teams in the postseason was 1997. Jackson State and Southern. Let's see. Jackson State, yeah. He did. Let's see. FAMU was number 2. I was shaking my head at people putting PV for 2 so long. Like I feel like they had to put PV at 2, man, because I mean they were winning at that point, but once they played Alcorn, they kind of got exposed in that game. Royce said the SWAC should play more Big Sky schools. The problem with that, Royce, and this, listen, Royce, I'll give it to you how I was told by some of my SWAC subscribers. The the Big Sky is too far away. They don't want to travel to Eastern Washington. They don't want to travel to Montana or Montana State or Sacramento State. The only way the SWAC schools are going to play big more Sky schools, Royce, is if they do a home and home. Because I'm telling you, the SWAC fans are going to riot if you try to make them go to Eastern Washington every year. So that's a great idea. I agree they should play more, but until they do home and homes, the SWAC schools are not traveling out to the West Coast. Leon said Coach Simmons mentions it in Why Not Us episode about USF. They talk about how they helped Fort Valley State. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he did. The only thing is I mean, if you're FAMU, you have to be just a little bit selfish, because is it more important to help Fort Valley State or is it more important to get your playoff bid? So that's the only argument I would make, but I get your point. I mean, it has a purpose for them playing Fort Valley State. You got Jack State upset still hurts. Man, crazy, come on. I know that hurts. I definitely do. To all the SWAC fans who said my FAMU cousins would make it, put some respect on FAMU's name. And I appreciate it, Javin, man. Appreciate you tuning in too. Listen, I'll be rooting for y'all all the way through the tournament too, man. You already know it. Let's see. Dion is a legend in culture. Folks are at least going to listen. Plus, he got visits, so why not go to the biggest HCU game at the end of the year? I agree, Mr. Campbell. FAMU's out of conference schedule is done for 2022. Let's see if the 100 can, they would fill up their small stadium. Albany State's going to be a dangerous D2 trap game next year. 10 out of 11 defenders returning. They gave up 5.7 points per game. Jesus Christ, that's elite, regardless of what level. Oh my Lord, did FAMU make it? I've been on the plane. Yes, Jay Stokes, FAMU made it. They'll be playing Southeastern Louisiana on Saturday night, so they did make it. Let's see. Best chances 2023. They already have South Carolina State and USF. So we have one more slot. And I think 2024 and 2025 are 12-game seasons. So 12-game seasons are definitely going to help there. That's going to be huge. He came to an FCS school. How many top recruits do you think Dion could get if JSU was an FBS school? Too many. The SWAC should stick to playing Sun Belt and Conference USA. It's the better choice. I won't mind that. I mean, especially if you start beating those teams, that's the biggest distinction, then, boys, is that when you look at the Big Sky teams like Eastern Washington and everything like that, they were beating the Colorado States, the UNLVs. ETSU beat Vanderbilt by 20 points, and all these teams were winning their FBS games. And none of that happened in the SWAC. The closest was Jackson State when they played UL Monroe. But you have to win those games. That's going to be the next big step for the SWAC. And then also the Alcorns, the Southerns, they can't be losing to McNeese State. You have to be able to beat McNeese State. That's a fact. And you have to be able to beat these lower FCS programs you play. And then you can't have a Prairie View go and get beat 41-9 by Incarnate Word. That cannot happen if you're Prairie View. So for me, that's going to be the next step, is winning those games and not just scheduling them. And the Big Sky wouldn't want to come down south in summer, Cramp City. Yeah, Calvin, they would not. Listen, they'd be like, oh, it's 110 degrees. I'll pass on coming to Lorman, Mississippi to play Alcorn when it's in mid-September. Let's see, Bluebloods, you were right. The money has to be right. The finances, it doesn't permit low profit out of conference matchups. The SWAC could have been playing more OVC teams a long time ago. Yeah, and not just Tennessee State. Tennessee State cannot be your lone OVC game. There's too many good OVC teams for you just to be playing Tennessee State. You got to play some other ones as well. The SWAC and Big Sky can meet in the Midwest class. Yeah, could be in the Midwest, Chicago, Indianapolis. I agree. I think even Kansas City playing in like Arrowhead or something would be huge. If you could go play in like KC or something, that would be crazy. Let's see. Yes, thanks, Blue. Appreciate it, man. Let's see. Maybe we can just change the schedule and pay off the D. Listen, a lot of so Sonic Boom, a lot of these D2 teams, like when you sign a matchup, so like for Auburn, if they wouldn't have played Alabama State, the payout to cancel that game is even higher than just the payout to play it. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of people pay off the D2s we had that they had scheduled. Um, JSU will beat ULM next year, possibly. I mean, they played really well. ULM actually had a really good season, shockingly. I didn't expect that. I believe this current JSU team could beat Southern Miss. Their running back is, yeah, Black Pilot. Listen, I could take 22 of us in here and we could beat Southern Miss right now. I'll take Mr. Campbell at running back. I'll put Sean at wide receiver. We'll put Scotty at the other wide receiver, and I'll let them boys play quarterback and we'll get rolling. And that's how bad Southern Miss is right now. Even though they won this week, Frank Gore Jr. threw 2 touchdowns in his first ever start at quarterback. So for me, I just don't. I mean, Jackson State, FAMU, I mean, probably both could beat Southern Miss. Let's see, Jacksonville State. I was about to say, play UT Martin or Austin P. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, man. Play those teams. That would be a huge matchup for both of those teams. JSU should have beaten ULM. Alcorn has to beat South Alabama. You got to agree with you on that. I want to see USM versus JSU when USM goes Sun Belt. I agree. I agree with that. UT Martin, a few Knoxville players who opted out of Clemson to go to UT Martin. Listen, UT Martin is no joke. No joke, man. Listen, UT Martin is a legit team. I mean, they had a great season, and I mean they ran right through that conference. Let's see, FAMU got the best record of all the Florida schools. Listen, that's why Dan Mullen's fired, Leon. That's why Dan Mullen's looking for a job. Maybe Willie Simmons can hire Dan Mullen as his OC or something. One time there was a floater idea of FAMU getting Kennesaw State as out of conference just because their current AD is FAMU's. Listen, I have been screaming that for me, there is no way that like Kennesaw State's got to play FAMU. I want to see that game so bad. I think FAMU could win, but for me, I need to see that game happen, man. I want to see it. But y'all laughing. Oh yeah, he said put me at the X. Anyone could beat USM. They're the Pine Bluff of FBS. That's funny. What if any positive impact will the playoff appearance have on recruiting? I think it's a big deal, like personally. So for me, I think FAMU has a chance to be, probably the second best FCS class in the country if Willie Simmons recruits right. Listen, and Mr. Campbell and a lot of these FAMU fans can vouch for me in the chat. Recruiting in the state of Florida is different. I mean, when usually when you look at like the state rankings, once you get past like the 50th best player in the state, it really falls off. But with Florida, I mean, you have hundreds of kids that could ball out at any given time. And there's so many diamonds in the rough in Florida that you can recruit that really and truly can change your program. So for me, I think FAMU's playoff appearance is huge because now Willie Simmons can come into a household and be like, we were the best team in the state of Florida this year. And if they can win a game, they said we can beat the defending Walter Payton Award winner. We can beat possibly a James Madison. And then you're really talking about some recruiting, and then also there's that whole angle of this, guys. And I don't think enough people have talked about it. Willie Simmons can go, we're the biggest thing. We're Dion's biggest competition. Why don't you come and play for me and we can go beat those guys that think they're so good? We can go beat a Jackson State and we can go to the playoffs and do all this and that. And so for me, FAMU's playoff appearance is huge on recruiting. And I've been screaming that even when I released my video in the spring about why the SWAC needed to go to the playoffs. That was my whole thing, is that it gives you a recruiting tactic to say we're playing for something bigger than just a celebration bowl. We're playing for national championships. And so for me, I think FAMU is going to benefit a lot. Let's see. UT Martin and Austin P could be good for JSU. JSU has a big following in Tennessee. Yeah, Austin P is in the ASUN now, but I mean, still they're right there, and I think that's an easy travel game for any of the SWAC teams to go play Austin P. I'm going to say this again: until these southern states start funding HBCUs, we're going to have to keep playing these damn money games. Call state. I agree. Listen, Stephen and Mr. Campbell, I have no listen. If you got to play one money game, that's fine. All I'm saying is like you got to play one. Just give me one game where an Austin Peay's played, one game where a Kennesaw's played, one game where an ETSU or someone like that is played. But yeah, I agree. The funding is all messed up. And in the southern states, all the governments are corrupt. I don't want to get into that because it gets me worked up. But yeah, I'm from Alabama. We all know who we try to elect as the leader of our state and who is the leader of our state right now, a former football coach. So that's a whole nother conversation for, like a political blue blood show. But I got the why against Southern Miss. My knees are bad, but I'm good for a couple series. Listen, John, man, it is listen, it is the Nick Saban Rehabilitation Center in Tuscaloosa. You get fired, you go coach for Saban for 1 or 2 years, you get another job. That's how it always works, man. I told you ULM was better with Bowden as the head coach, man. They really improved. They did. Jamal said, "What are your thoughts on Tennessee State transfer, Savian Williams in that FAMU defensive line?" Listen, Savian's I think Savian's had an underrated year. Listen, Isaiah Lands exploded onto the scene, and he deserves all his props. But I think Savian is the second best D lineman for FAMU this year. I think he's had a quiet year, but in terms of size and his athletic ability, I think really and truly, when you look on paper, he has that NFL typical size. And I believe he has one more year, Jamal. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think next year is really going to be the year that we see Savian break out. But I just think he's been overshadowed by Land. But I think Savian's had a solid year. And I think next year he can really establish himself as one of the best D linemen in the SWAC. Willie can recruit too. I agree. Let's see. Albany State beat Mississippi College 24-0. CAU 49-0. Miles 30-0 twice. God dog. Edwin Waters 30-0. Savannah State 30-0. Good Lord, dude. Albany State is killing people, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Imperial. I did not know that. That is crazy. I mean, they're shutting everybody out. Crazy Criminal said FAMU and West Florida could be your two best football programs. Heads will roll, and Coach Mullen was the first to go. Manny Diaz could be next. I agree. Let's see. We have a ton of kids. If you look at most FBS national championship teams, they're littered with Florida talent. 1,000%. That is the FAMU recruiting pitch. That's exactly what Willie is saying. Take advantage of the Florida transfers too. Weidman and Hooks are both from Florida. Yeah, I won't forget about West Florida. I've been saying they should move up because, I mean, they are a problem. Let's see. JSU ticket sales was at least 2.1 million. We got GM and Pepsi sponsoring. They didn't release the amount they gave for athletic scholarships. That's great for JSU, honestly. Let's see. It's about consistently getting SWAC schools into the playoff. Damn you from Alabama. At least some places y'all got running water. That's fair. That's fair. Listen, guys, be ready for the rumors because that's going to be a rumor. 1,000%. 1,000%. Let's see. He's supposed to be a senior unless he's using COVID. Yeah, I think that's why I think he can come back one more year because of the COVID year, but we'll have to see. This might have been his COVID year. I don't remember if he transferred as a junior or a senior from Tennessee, but if he can get another year, that's going to be huge. Ricky said you're putting the cart before the horse. The game is played on the field. The SWAC championship isn't given yet. Go Panthers! Listen, I'll give y'all a chance, Ricky. I'll give y'all a chance. Listen, I've rooted for y'all all year. I'll give y'all a chance. My bad. Jackson State is not the SWAC champions yet. You're right. This is crazy how things in the SWAC. If FAMU wins 2 or 3 games, they'll be declared Black national champions. 1 playoff win is better than 100 celebration bowls. I agree, and I think right now. Listen, and I think Scotty had a whole show about that, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't want to. I'll give credit where credit's due. If FAMU beats, so if they win 1 playoff game, I think that they're right there, and then you win the second. If they beat James Madison, I'm giving FAMU a better season than Jackson State this year. I know Jackson State beat them, but to go beat the reigning Walter Payton Award winner and potentially the Walter Payton Award winner this year and James Madison both on the road, I think you got to give FAMU an A+ for the season, man. I mean, that would be incredible. Even if they don't win the quarterfinals, that would still be an impressive year, in my opinion. Let's see. Albany State's coach is a tremendous candidate to move up. I agree. David Johnson said, is Willie getting a look for Florida? David, listen, you're going to get a lot of hate on this one. But Mr. Campbell is going to come in the chat screaming at me. Listen, Willie Simmons is not probably not leaving FAMU, and two, probably won't be considered for Florida, as I'm pretty sure Florida. That I just don't see the boosters looking at him as a candidate now. Should they? Probably, but they're not. They're probably going to go the same old recycled route, and which is stupid. But I'll have an episode probably come out tonight. I got to go to work in about half an hour or so. But then when I get back, I'm going to do a whole rundown on Dan Mullen's firing, the candidates, things like that. So I'll reach out to my Florida sources and get y'all an episode on that ASAP. But I would love to see Willie Simmons there. It's just probably not going to happen. Let's see. Ticket sales, parking agency. Mr. Campbell had this convo previously. If not, one of the vets did. How many rounds are in the FCS playoffs? So I believe it's 4. So you would have the first round, second round, then you would have the quarterfinals, semifinals, then you would have the championship. So that's how it would go, John Johnson. They would have to play James Madison second, probably Montana or Eastern Washington in the third round, and then I don't remember the other side of the bracket, but it'd be a tough one. If FAMU can get 1 to 2 wins, I think that would be the best case scenario for FAMU. Let's see, but got beat in the first round of the playoffs. That's tough, man. We really appreciate your format and your professional and objective view, Mr. Blueblood. Man, I appreciate it, Ricky, man. Definitely appreciate the support. Now, do y'all know how backwoods Florida alumni are? It's not great. I'll say their track record, Mr. Campbell, is not the best. Now, what should they consider? Absolutely, but that they probably won't, to be completely honest with you. We don't need it. We had over 30,000. We played Delta State, which is about 750K ticket sales, and that's just on Delta State. Mullen was out after last year. Don't know why they couldn't get it done with the best offensive weapons in the SEC. This should be no surprise. It's definitely not a surprise. Don't get me wrong there. 1,000% not a surprise. Weber State, man. They had too many bad losses. Yes, they had that one big win, Scuba, over Eastern Washington, but outside of that, they didn't have any key wins in their biggest games. They needed to have another signature win, and they didn't get that. So for me, man, Weber State was on the outside looking in. Let's see, man. I appreciate it, Jay. Thank you for the donation. I can't see them going back to Mississippi State, and the main reason, Jay, is because right now Mike Leach is killing it, man. Mike Leach has Mississippi State in the top 25. They've had some big wins this year. They've beaten top 20 Auburn, top 15 Texas A&M. They beat top 15 Kentucky. I mean, Dan Mullen just won't have a place, because I don't think they're going to move on from Mike Leach. I would imagine if you're Dan Mullen, you either take a head coaching job at the Group of 5 level. Maybe he's a candidate for one of the ACC jobs. But for me, I don't think I can see him getting another SEC job right now, unless it's as like an offensive coordinator, because he is a great offensive-minded head coach, and he might just be one of those coaches that's better at being a coordinator than a head coach. So Dan Mullen's career is not over, but for me, I have a tough time seeing him, to take over from Mike Leach when Mike Leach is performing so well at his job right now. There are a lot of parts of this battle. Getting HBCUs more money, getting these teams more national attention, successful. We got to do something. That's what I'm saying, man. There is 1,000. We got to do. It's got to do something. And a small step forward in the right direction is better than just standing there idly. So for me, this was a huge step today. No chance they hire an HBCU head coach. I agree, John. Florida is one of those schools that I just would have a hard time seeing. I have a hard time seeing them hiring, someone like a Willie Simmons. Let's see. Luckily for Prime, he has named both Florida and Texas. He has much more of an advantage to go and recruit out of there. Mullen will be at Alabama or TCU. Man, listen, I would be TCU for me. I think they've already offered the job to Napier. I don't know if he would take it, but I mean, I think Mullen needs to take a break, John, to be completely honest, because I agree right here. Dan Mullen was just burnt out, man. You could tell the head coach scribe was getting to him coming from Mississippi State, going into a high pressure situation like Florida. I just don't think he was ready for the pressure, guys. I don't think people understand what type of a pressure cooker some of these top SEC jobs are. To be a head coach at a Florida, a Georgia, an LSU, you could be a great head coach anywhere else where the expectations are 8 or 9 wins. But for me, I think it's much harder when the expectations are championship or bust. The stress and the pressure that puts on a head coach sometimes is just way too much. So for me, that's where the like fundamental difference comes in my opinion. So I think that burned him out a lot is the expectations and the pressure cooker of Florida and the boosters. And crazy criminal. I mean, TCU could be a great opportunity. You know, they probably didn't look at Mullen. Um, they probably didn't look at Mullen as a realistic option, crazy criminal at first, but I would be shocked if they didn't pick up the phone. Now, one school I think would be interesting, and I know they're looking at Shane Beamer, and I know they're looking at other places, is Virginia Tech. I think Virginia Tech would be crazy not to look at Dan Mullen as the head coach. I mean, they're looking for some, it's really hard to follow a legend. So I didn't think anybody anybody thought that what's his name got fired at Virginia Tech, but to replace a legend like Frank Beamer was so hard. So for me, I think that's a place that you could look for Mullen, but TCU is not a bad option, crazy criminal. I just don't know if they would take him over a Napier just because Napier hasn't had his chance and it's probably a bit of a fresher face. And that idea of he got worn out is a real concern. Mike Leach is outperforming expectations. I agree. Let's see. I appreciate it again, Jay, man. I definitely appreciate it. Did Dak make Dan Mullen? Man, I mean, listen, potentially. Um, Potentially. So the way I look at it is you got to give Dan Mullen credit for recruiting him. You got to give Dan Mullen credit for developing him. But for you have a great case because the year that really probably put Dan Mullen on the map was all about Dak Prescott performing outrageously. And then also you look at a lot of the other talent that Mississippi State team had. I mean, they were number one in the country for a long time. I do think you can make an argument that Dak did probably make Dan Mullen because here's why you can make that argument. Out of all the quarterbacks he recruited, none of them panned out at Florida. His best quarterback was Kyle Trask, who was a quarterback who didn't even start at his own high school. So I think that's a huge problem in terms of trying to analyze the career of Dan Mullen. So I don't think that's an unfair comparison. To be honest with you, I agree with you. Blue expectations of the boosters weigh in on coaches. I agree. John said Baton Rouge Sports Radio says that Napier has told the LSU AD that Napier won't take a job until LSU names a new head coach, but I'm not sure if the Florida opening changes that up. John, I want you to comment then. Let me know what is up with the Lincoln Riley rumors, man? I need to hear it from you, man, because I know you're my LSU guy. What is up with the Lincoln Riley rumors? Because they're all over the place. Dan Mullen is going to get a good buyout, chill for a year, and come back. I like that. Appreciate it, sir, man. Definitely appreciate it. Can you talk about the top 8 teams in the playoffs? In the playoff bracket, I don't think people understand just how tough the playoffs are. Yeah, man. Let me pull up the bracket just so I make sure I have all the right teams. I'm still pissed that Eastern Washington didn't get a top seed. That was insane to me. Let's see. So we got the official bracket right here. So first off, we'll start with Sam Houston serve. Listen, Sam Houston is going to get tested serve because Sam Houston really didn't have a tough schedule. I believe they had the second lowest strength of schedule next to FAMU in the playoffs this year. So I'm really interested to see how Sam Houston plays against some of these top teams. They get Stephen F. Austin or UIW in the second round, depending on who wins that game. I would say UIW could give Sam Houston a lot of problems. Now, the defense isn't great, so that'd be a shootout. But with Cameron Ward and that offense, I think that would give Sam Houston's defense their toughest test of the season. And then on top of that, Stephen F. Austin played Sam Houston State down to 1 point earlier this year. That's going to be a huge matchup, and it's always tougher to beat a team twice the second time around than it is the first time. They really struggled the first time. So for me, that's going to be a giant test for Sam Houston. The next one, Montana State. they're good. They're coming off a really, really bad loss to Montana this weekend. They really got exposed, but they get UT Martin and Missouri State. Missouri State's tough. They have some great wins in Missouri Valley, and for me, UT Martin really took advantage of a weaker, I guess I would say a weaker OVC than we're used to. But I still think Missouri State's probably a quarterfinal team. I think they have that type of talent. I do think if for somehow they get matched up with Sam Houston, that's going to be a tough test for them. It really depends on the Missouri State we get. If Missouri State can show up like they did against like an Eastern Washington, they have national championship aspirations. But for me, I still think they're probably a step behind some of the top contenders. Now, I think the two teams I'm very I guess have the most questions about serve are Sacramento State and Villanova. I'm really concerned about both of those teams. I'm not sure. Sacramento State got lucky by not playing some of the top teams in the Big Sky this year, which really led to them winning the conference. And then Villanova also really hasn't been tested this year. Now, Villanova gets Sacred Heart or Holy Cross, two tough tests. I think Sacred Heart probably is the tougher test in the second round. But I think either of those two teams, if they get to the quarterfinals and get a Sam Houston or Missouri State, will probably get beat. In my opinion, Nova's probably a bit better than Sacramento State. I can see South Dakota State. If they can get past UC Davis in the first round, man, I think they can beat Sacramento State in that second round, in my opinion. Now, James Madison and Montana. I think James Madison is a good matchup for FAMU. Now, Southeastern Louisiana, we give that defense some problems. And the reason that I would like Southeastern Louisiana against James Madison is James Madison doesn't have a super explosive offense. I think if Southeastern Louisiana can get past FAMU and turn that James Madison game into a shootout, you could see James Madison potentially have some problems. But I think there would still be slight favorites over either FAMU or Southeastern Louisiana. I just think it'd be two stylistic matchups that would be interesting to see how it is. But the low-scoring aspect of the FAMU game would be extremely interesting to see how Rashawn McKay would play against that James Madison defense. Now, Montana is good. I just think they got a tough bracket, man. To get UNI or Eastern Washington in the next round, probably Eastern Washington. It's just tough. Eastern Washington beat them on ESPN2 earlier this year. Eric Barrier had a giant game. So I would say I would say Montana would have the toughest path to that third round because I just think Eastern Washington is a horrible matchup for them and potentially would probably be able to beat them in the second round because Eastern Washington probably should have been the 8th seed over a Montana State, in my opinion. But that would be where I would fall on them. And then the other two, North Dakota State, I think their resume speaks for themselves, but they'll get Southern Illinois or South Dakota, both from their conference. And I think right now they'd be the favorite over either of those teams. So I definitely think that I think North Dakota State is probably the most surefire pick into the third round out of all the top 8 seeds. They got the easiest path. And I definitely think they would beat ETSU, who would probably get Kennesaw or Davidson. I think Davidson would give ETSU a run for their money. That triple option attack is no joke. That defense is no joke. And for me, if Davidson somehow upsets Kennesaw State, I think ETSU walks into the third round too. But Kennesaw would be a brutal matchup in that second round. So for me, I would say North Dakota State has the easiest path. And for me, though, Montana probably is the one team that it's Montana and Sacramento State would probably be the two teams I would have the biggest question marks about in those top 8 seeds moving forward. But right now, I think pretty much I would say North Dakota State's going to walk into probably the semifinals this year, man. I appreciate it, Crazy Criminal, man. As always, man, you're one of my biggest supporters, so definitely appreciate that. Let's see. Lionel said, do you think JSU and FAMU being the best two teams in the SWAC right now, will it be JSU to go to the playoffs one year and FAMU the next year? So what would have to happen, Lionel, is like Jackson State would have to like purposely lose. They would have to purposely lose to FAMU next year. And I just don't know. I don't know how you can convince a team to purposely lose because if they win, they're probably going to the SWAC championship. So for me, it would be if I'm the SWAC, I want Jackson State and FAMU in the playoffs every year, man. It's so great for the conference, and I think those are the two teams that would have the best chance to win. And then then you probably can have like a Southern versus Alabama A&M or someone like that in the SWAC championship, and it'll be just as fun to watch. But it would be really tough, Lionel, to see both of those teams rotate because they would have to like make some agreement that we'll lose this year and then y'all lose next year, and it's going to get real iffy because they're in the same division too. So that would be the hardest thing in terms of trying to get both of those teams into the playoffs. Now, let's see. John said, honestly, I think they have an agreement with the coach, but they're not naming him until after the Texas A&M game. Every few days, there's a new rumor. Who knows if it's an agent looking for raises or for real? I agree with you, John. Okay, I like that. I like that. Riley, Aranda, or Tucker. Okay, John, I like that. I think Aranda. I think Aranda's an underrated prospect, man. I really do. I like that. I like that pick though. JMU would hurt FAMU. Montana has the toughest playoff. I agree. Let's see. Mullen is a beast at offensive coordinator. Let's see. If there was no Celebration Bowl this year, do you think JSU and FAMU get a selection? So JSU would have to give up the SWAC championship too. But, man, if I'm looking at it, I think Jackson State would have absolutely got a bid if they didn't have the SWAC championship or the Celebration Bowl. JSU would have been in the playoffs, and so would have FAMU. I think you probably would have kicked out a UNI or somebody if you're really being honest, or maybe a Stephen F. Austin. But, I don't know where they would have placed Jackson State. I mean, Jackson State, so the way it would have worked is Jackson State probably would have played Southeastern Louisiana because Jackson State's closer to them than FAMU is, and FAMU probably would have had to play Kennesaw I would say Kennesaw or UT Martin probably would have been the matchup for FAMU because that would be the next closest teams for them. So I would say probably Kennesaw. So really and truly, Jackson State would have probably got matched up with Southeastern Louisiana due to the closeness of those two schools. But they both would have got in, Leon. I mean, Jackson State was like the number 17 or 18 team in the country. That would have been a easy pick, and they're one of only 4 teams without an FCS loss this year. They would have been a lock for the playoffs, and it wouldn't even have been close. We need to find out if there's a way to get off your SWAC championship berth to the first place. Sonic Boom, there probably is. I just think this year was not the year Dion wanted to do that. To come in your first year and give up your SWAC championship berth the first year you make it would have been a bad look, I think, for Jackson State. So for me, I think they probably wanted to get into the SWAC championship, win it the first year, and then I think they'll be looking further on into the future of maybe getting to the playoffs in the coming years for Jackson State. Let's see, I've watched 4 Baylor games from beginning to end this year, and the improvement from the start of the year is quite impressive. I believe Baylor can win the Big 12 this year if Aranda stays. Yeah, John. So I'm a K-State student. So I was watching the K-State Baylor game last night, and I mean they lost their starting quarterback and still look dominant. And they have one of the best rushing attacks in the country this year. Aranda's defense has been playing lights out, and they still have a chance for the Big 12 this year, man. If Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma, Baylor goes to Dallas to play for the Big 12 championship, and they get a rematch with Oklahoma State, which is one of their 2 losses. And I think right now that would be a huge matchup, and Aranda could have Baylor looking at a Big 12 title in year 2 after finishing, I believe they were 2-8 last year or something like that. So Aranda's doing a hell of a job. I mean, he's recruited out of his mind. Abram Smith is a monster at running back. Jerry Bohannon is a monster. So for me, I'm really impressed with what Baylor did this year. I agree with you. FAMU needs to win the first game just so they won't start so low next year. I agree, Coach Simmons. And the thing about it is what's impressive is it's going to be. I think they can beat Southeastern Louisiana. I really, really do, man. I know some people who tune in be like that it might be a homer or whatever like that. But for me, I think FAMU right now, that defense is playing so well. I'm going to do some film breakdowns and things like that. But this matchup is going to be giant for the SWAC. And I think if they win, you're going to have Jackson State and FAMU both start in the top 25 next year. And that is amazing to see from the SWAC moving forward, because Alabama A&M kind of got screwed this year because of that. So I think it would be huge if they can win this game. Yeah, Waldo, I got an episode coming this afternoon. I'm about to jump off here in probably about 10, 15 minutes, head to work. When I get back from work, I will definitely drop that Dan Mullen episode as soon as I get back. Y'all need to stop this. JSU is going to benefit by winning the Celebration Bowl this year. Oh yeah, year one, Mr. Campbell, huge for Jackson State to win it this year. I think they could beat Oklahoma State if they played again. I 1,000% agree with you there, John. I mean, they've been playing outstanding. I don't think they're the same team from week 4 when they played Oklahoma State to now. That defense is clicking. Terrell Bernard, man, is one of my favorite players to watch in college football, and he is playing on a whole nother level. It just depends on Bohannon's injury. He looked like he tore his knee up pretty bad last night. If he's out, they probably aren't winning that game. But if Bohannon's healthy, they definitely have a chance. JSU versus PV. I can't wait to see that one. Yeah, I definitely think they're going to start the season ranked. Calvin, I haven't looked at the roster breakdown, and the cold COVID situation makes it a whole shot in the dark in terms of who's returning and who's not. But I would imagine they have a lot of players returning. I think Marquise Bell is definitely out. Antoine Collier, I believe, is on his way out too. And I'm sure there's some other people. But for me, that's really going to depend on who declares and who doesn't, or who takes that extra COVID year and who doesn't. Um, let's see, Dim Boys. In the future, it would be great to have a future NFL talent show, FCS players. I agree. I 1,000% agree with you on that one. Nugget and Wadman back for the next game. Yeah, that was. I don't know about you guys, and I'll talk about it on my SWAC recap tomorrow morning. It'll drop at like 8 a.m. I'm going to talk about it, but you could tell the offense, as great as as great as Hooks and Corbin played, you can definitely tell, in my opinion, that offense is different without Malachi Wadman. They don't have that huge deep threat that you can just throw it up to and trust in one-on-one coverage. And I really think, I really think, in my opinion, Wadman was really the missing key to that offense yesterday. You could tell they were really missing him early before things started to really click with Corbin. Um, let's see. Tell Allscript to bring that NFL scout back. I'll text him, Brett. I'll text him, Calvin. We'll definitely see if we can get him on around draft time. Who can you see getting drafted by JSU? For me, the number one prospect, Jay, it's easy. It is James Houston. James Houston, in my opinion, has the ability to be a second, third round pick. I mean, I think he's that good. A top 3 round pick for Jackson State this year is going to be James Houston. Now, if Nugget leaves, I feel like with some of the, in terms of not playing every game, really hurt him. But I still think he can get drafted. So I could see Houston and Nugget definitely being 2 of the ones drafted. And then outside of that, maybe the linebackers. I just have a tough time seeing the linebackers slot up early, and it really depends on whether Hampton and them get invited to the Senior Bowl, and how do they play. How do they play in the HBCU Legacy Bowl and the Combine and things like that. But for me, I think those are probably the main ones, because you look at all their offensive skill players, none of them are really draft eligible. So in terms of the future, I think, Malachi Wadman's a surefire draft pick. Shador's a surefire draft pick. I'll just be honest with y'all. None of the garbage offensive linemen are getting drafted. They are atrocious. But for me, Wadman's probably getting drafted. I would say Shador, and then maybe Corbin if he can continue on the route he is. And I can see maybe, in my opinion, maybe, guys, I'm talking about a maybe, is Newman being signed as like an undrafted free agent, because I think he's a great special teams piece. But I have a tough time seeing him maybe get drafted. But then Katron Evans, I didn't like to specify. I mean, he's a true freshman. And so he'll probably be drafted, at D tackle. But in terms of next year, I think next year, Corbin, Houston, and Nugget would probably be my 3 picks to be surefire drafted. If I had to put my real cash money on it, those 3 would be the 3 I would bet on to be surefire drafted next year. And James Houston, guys, is a lock. James Houston is an absolute lock to be drafted. There's no way he's not drafted, and I think he's his top end second round draft pick, as I think he's that type of talent coming out of Jackson State. Question is Hampton coming back? I swore he was a junior because of COVID. Yeah. So Sean, the way it works is seniors. Yes, seniors got an extra year, Sean, but even the freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors all got an extra year. So if you were a sophomore last year, you still technically could be a sophomore this year and opt to come back an extra year. So everybody who was in college football last year got an extra year, Sean. So every single person can stay in school and come back if they want. Let's see. Let me catch up on some of these comments. 28 FAMU players are likely in their last year. Oh, wow. That's a lot of players. I need FAMU to win their first game in the playoffs so they won't get screwed like Boise State always does. Dimble, I did not hear about any invites for, any HBCU players, but they haven't announced who all they sent the invite to. They're letting teams announce, on their own, but I'll let y'all know as soon as we get an official list of who accepted and who didn't. The Senior Bowl's the first week of February in Mobile, Alabama. Hampton will be a 6th round to Kansas City. Put my name on it. I got you, Coach. I'll remember that. Do these guys using a COVID year have to enroll in grad school? I'm not sure. They can, but I'm pretty sure you could be like a SWAC graduate. There's a lot of SEC players who just graduate and then they still play. So I don't know if the SWAC has a different rule about that, Sonic Boom, or not. What round, James Houston? I said second and probably third at worst. But I think he should be a top 3 3-round draft pick, in my opinion. What's this rumor about Travis Hunter? So, Lionel, it's not a rumor. He did visit Jackson State, which is a huge deal. But based on everything he said, he's committed to Florida State, and there's a lot of people thinking he might even switch to Bama. But for Travis Hunter even to come to JSU is a big deal. I would be hard pressed for him to land at Jackson State, but there's always a possibility, man. But right now, I would say Florida State, unless they fire Norvell, is probably still going to land Travis Hunter just because him and Norvell have that type of relationship. But it's no rumor he was in Jackson State. And he visited, and that's a huge step forward, Lionel, for all 5-star athletes to know that they could take those visits to HBCUs and the SWAC. Nugget better stay in school and come back next year. I agree. I think Nugget will benefit from coming back one more year. I didn't think this year was a great exhibit of the type of talent that Nugget had. Shiloh was a sophomore at South Carolina, now is at JSU. Let's see. Aubrey going 7th round, I believe. Let's see. If FAMU wins the first round game, they play JMU at 1 p.m. Central. The SWAC title game's at 3 p.m. Central. Lawrence, listen. I hate to say it, and I mean, y'all can call me, and I got my slow SWAC hours. I will be way more interested in FAMU versus James Madison than I would be the SWAC championship. That's just me, though. I mean, I think FAMU versus James Madison at 1 p.m. would be the game to watch, and that'd be a great opportunity for the SWAC just for exposure. I mean, you would have all those people tuning in to see James Madison play FAMU, and then they could all flip over to the SWAC championship as soon as that game was done. So I think that would be huge if FAMU won that first round game and got on the same day, got to play in the second round of the playoffs against the James Madison when Jackson State and Prairie View suited up and just a few hours later. So that's interesting. I forgot that those would be on the same day. That's crazy. USM and FSU recruits need to look at other teams. I agree with you on that one. If JSU goes in the 3rd round, Dion will have a better draft class next year than he had this year. Hey man, the talent's coming down. I mean, he's recruiting at a high level, and I'm like everyone has said, I'm never counting out Dion in recruiting in NFL draft potential, man. Never. All right, who are my favorites in the playoffs? Oh, Calvin, putting me on the spot. I see. Based on the bracket, so I'll do it based on the bracket and what I see right now. I think North Dakota State has a great shot. They have such an easy path to get there, so they'll probably be the healthiest. In terms of other seeded teams I really like, man, it's so I think Sam Houston has a great shot to get there again. And then if I had to pick a first round team that I like to make it, I think Eastern Washington can definitely make a run from the first round. I For me, I would say Eastern Washington, North Dakota State, and Sam Houston would probably be my top three. I would probably rank them North Dakota State, Sam Houston, Eastern Washington as my 1, 2, 3 going through the playoffs right now. But I just think Sam Houston and North Dakota State have the easier pass when you look at how everything has played out in terms of, the seeding and the brackets and things like that. Let's see, why isn't Jackson State in the playoffs? So, Rashad, they could not be in the playoffs because the SWAC championship isn't until after the playoffs start. The playoffs start Saturday, and the Bayou Classic and Prairie View versus Mississippi Valley State are this weekend, and so Jackson State would not have had time. They would have had to opt out of the SWAC championship, which Dion was not going to do his first year in the SWAC. And so they couldn't qualify because they won their division. The only SWAC teams that are going to be eligible until the automatic bid comes back are going to be the second place teams in each division. So the only teams that would have had a realistic argument, in terms of logistically, would be FAMU and Alcorn. And Alcorn definitely didn't have the resume. They had like 5 losses, and they lost to McNeese, and so they wouldn't even had a shot. So Jackson State couldn't get in because they won their division pretty much. And so that is why Jackson State isn't in, which is why I think the SWAC needs to get their automatic bid back, but that'll all be in due time, man. But guys, I'm about to have to head to work, man. I appreciate y'all tuning in to this Sunday stream. I'm hoping you'll have a great Sunday, man. We had the most people in here, I think, ever, man. Over 100 in here. So make sure to smash that like button. If you're new, smash the subscribe button. If you want to become a member, man, check out our membership perks. And I appreciate anyone who joins to support the show. All the money goes back into the show to making this a better one for you guys. But listen, Dan Mullen episode tonight. Turn on your post notifications. SWAC recap tomorrow. Week 12 recap tomorrow. And also, we're doing rivalry week previews. We have FCS round 1. We have FCS round 1 previews. We have rivalry week playoffs for the FBS. We got the Bayou Classic. I mean, listen, guys, it's going to be a big week. So listen, it's Thanksgiving. Y'all have a great week with your families and everything. Turn on the Bluebloods for your family, man. But I appreciate y'all so much. Hoping y'all have a great week this week, man. But for right now, guys, the Bluebloods are out.